you doing any dealership work around here? Foundation board.
I remember you doing the Lockerly with your iPhone.
Yeah. That was a challenge. Yeah, so Rotary International, part of the website is down today. Yeah, I couldn't get logged on. I think it was down for maintenance or something. But he's actually going to be transferring from Madison County.
Oh, yeah, I realized that's who you were. Okay, yeah.
We're going to start in about 5 minutes. Anybody wants to hit the restroom before we go, it's just right outside on the other side of this wall. We're going to do the tour first, and then there'll be box lunch afterwards. And we're going to walk about a third mile or a little more. If anybody has any problems with that, we have a couple of golf carts that some folks can get on, but it's a pretty large facility, so we'll be quarter to a half a mile at least on the walk. Okay, so we'll get started in about 5 minutes. Yep, right.
What about the history? Tell us the history of how this came into being.
I can, but I'm taking this mask, so I'll try to separate it. So, yeah, so the history of our participation at this site. We were my grandpa started the business in 1952.
Start there.
Okay.
So how did that get started?
So he bought a Sinclair gas station in downtown Smyrna. That was a thing there. At one time. So in 1952, roughly about 5,000 people lived in Smyrna, and he was the benefactor of Lockheed and Dobbin, basically. So 20 years later, the city of Smyrna had over 50,000 people. So he was a small town entrepreneur, and he's the one that had used car lots and gas stations and record companies and auto parts stores. But his career evolved into being a car dealer. Okay, so that's car and truck dealer is what his career was. And the Faust brothers was his younger brother. So his younger brother was in the military and joined the business in 1955. Brothers, best friends, business partners. Nobody ever heard of Martin. Okay, now we can sell cage match fights the second generation, but the first generation was they loved each other. So they built a great business and had Nissan, GMC trucks, Isuzu, UD, Hino stores, and in the early to mid '90s, as a family, we got out of the auto and truck business. So we got rid of all the dealerships, and of course, there's a lot of ancillary businesses that go with it that I just listed, and we started to focus on our truck body business, and that had come out of us being a truck dealer. We were not being serviced very well for flatbeds, landscape bodies, service vehicles, those types of things, and we had a dormant dealership on Atlanta Road in Smyrna, and we started to upfit trucks. So that's how we got into that in the mid to late 80s. So we put the two families together, and so we had a lot of car dealerships and so nobody had to work together, and then we all went back to one location, or they went back to one location. So in 1997, we put the great fence of Smyrna up, and my cousins took one half of the business, and we took the other. They subsequently sold to Rush Truck Center, and my third generation cousin is still an executive on their leadership team. And so I entered the business in 2003. So a little bit of my background: I grew up in Smyrna, graduated from the Walker School in Marietta, did 4 years of camp up in Athens, and had a great time. And then went to work for some marketing agencies out in Los Angeles, and we're traveling all over the country and the world. And got recruited to come back into the family business, which was not something that I thought I ever wanted to do. So, but came back in 03, and then in 05, I did my first acquisition and bought a van body facility in Social Circle, Georgia. And then in 2010, at that point, it was my two uncles who were managing the business, and we had a succession plan, and I bought them out in 2010. And then did another acquisition of a van body plant in LaGrange, Texas, which we still own today, which is 20 acres and about 80,000 square feet. And then we came to consolidate this year 3 locations in Georgia. So we had 3 separate locations, and we've been looking for about a decade to try to figure out how to consolidate that. The challenge, now moving to kind of a property perspective, the challenge for us is that I wanted to raise my kids in Cobb County. You know, we want to be there, and the competition in Cobb County now is, you know, Home Depot's headquarters and, you know, Genuine Parts, and that's not just for facilities, that's also for employees. And so it's a very tough environment for a family-owned small business. So we looked at probably 6, 7, 8 facilities. We had been under contract on 2 or 3 of them, and they all fell through, fortunately for us. And then we committed ourselves to just building a brand new facility in Social Circle. So we'd already had a facility there, and last May we got to a construction cost perspective that just didn't make any sense. I mean, construction costs are just extremely expensive, and I've been tracking this building for a very long time, and they dropped the price to investor grade. This building it's got a lot of history to it. Obviously, Ream was here for 30 years. Then they left abruptly. Heath Lawrence was part of that team, and they spent 5 years getting rid of 15 million pounds. Yeah. 15 million pounds of equipment had to be taken out of this building, which took over 5 years to do that. They got themselves into a position now. The building had been dormant. It had been here with an industrial site, so everything you ever thought about, it was a very hard due diligence. They were working with the state development group, and they brought in many big players, but finally they had kind of given up that there was going to be a major manufacturer that came in and put an investor grade price on it. So coincidentally, I called our real estate group and said, look, I'm bailing on the construction in Social Circle. I've got a facility in Athens that I want to go look at, and I said I want to see what's happening in Milledgeville since they dropped the price. And they called back and they said, hey, they got 3 investors here. You guys are late to the ball game. I'm like, there's no late to the ball game on a 92 acre 6-7. It's like until it's sold, it's not sold. So I came down here roughly June 1st of last year, met Heath, and there were 3 investors. And at that point, Ream was under a lot of pressure to get rid of the building, and a lot of reasons for that. And the other investors had no tenant. And obviously, we had a tenant. Right? We had our own business that we could place in, and you'll see that today. That takes about half of the building. So it took us 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, we seriously stepped foot on the property for the first time at 11 a.m. on a Monday, and we gave them an offer at 5 o'clock Tuesday afternoon. So it freaked them out. They're like, well, people just walked in the door. And so part of the issue is that when you do this, a program like, come on in, guys, there's plenty of space. Come on in. Sorry, we got started a little early and started chatting, just circling around. So part of the issue that they have with the other groups is that this was a very, very tough facility to do a due diligence on. I mean, you could buy it for X and spend 10 times that amount, preparing everything. So Heath was, if he wouldn't have been involved, we would not be here. That's the fact. I mean, he had been working in this facility for Ring for 10 years and knew everything about it. So we were able to get our arms around it, and actually the county and the city were awesome. We got a demo permit before we even closed. We had put well over $1 million in demolition into the building before we even closed, to the point the bankers were getting pretty nervous. They're saying, hey, we're going to make this happen. I was like, yeah, we have to now, right? So we closed in October, and then the pressure came onto us. We sold both of our facilities. We had 1 leased facility and 2 that we owned, and we sold them within a week of putting them for sale. So then all of a sudden they wanted to be in those facilities, and so something that we would have liked to take in a year to do, we rebuilt this facility in about 90 days. So at one point we had over 125 actual people on the ground working with about 10 different vendors And the most we ever had one day was 48 pieces of equipment that we were renting in some form or fashion to do this. So we entered the building and made our date of January 6th, and we had our van body lines up and running. Our van body lines, we had our best March in company history, so we won. We got everything done. And then we took, last week of March, we took about $10 million worth of cancellations for our van body lines because of COVID. Okay? So when they shut down the truck facilities, the truck manufacturing facilities, they all sent out to our customers, you got 2 weeks to cancel orders so that you don't have to take these trucks if you want to, and everybody took that opportunity. So kind of a bitter pill to swallow is that then we had to come in here on April 4th and we had to shut one of those lines down. You'll see one of those lines that are dormant today, and we hope to have that back up and running by January 1st. Yep. COVID. Let's talk about that. I think that's the biggest thing that's on everybody's mind here is that if you haven't heard yet, you're going to be in a very large facility. You're going to have almost 3,000 square feet per individual that's in space. CDC requirement right now is 300 for a grocery store. So you're almost 10x. We have partnered with Southeastern Medical Clinic right here next to Firehouse Subs. And they have been excellent. I don't know if anybody here works for them or not, but they've been great. We have been testing a lot of healthy people. Okay, so we tested at this facility alone 19 people that were either fearful or not wanting to work before we had our first positive test about 4 weeks ago. Okay, we have a protocol: wash your hands, don't touch your face, don't come to work if you're sick. Second protocol: if you're sick, then you have to go through a testing protocol. We do antibody test immediately, so we get a blood test back immediate. They drive up there within 2 hours. We know the antibody. That antibody is a coronavirus antibody, so that doesn't mean they're actively got COVID, but it's a leading indicator. And then if they test positive for that or negative, but they're getting the COVID-19 test, and they're getting that back to us in 48 hours. That's great. Okay, so then we do contact. We had one case, and then we ended up testing about 60 or 70 different people. Guys, I know a lot of our kids are going back to school next couple of days. The scary part is we've had 3 confirmed cases. This is small sample size, very, very unscientific, but 2 of them have never been sick. Okay, they've had testing. So one of them was sick 4 weeks ago. 2 of them tested positive and not here. I mean, we're out of all those protocols and have been for days. There's nobody in current testing. There's nobody that's not here because they're in quarantine. So we're healthy and open for business. But, the more difficult part going forward, some of us were talking about, this is going to be around for a while, is that we ended up finding 2 people that had it, and they have never been sick. They still to this day believe they didn't have it. So we've had them tested and retested and tested. So that asymptomatic person is what's most difficult. CDC right now only requires that, you try to do some contact testing, but either you're sick or you're not. You tested positive or you're not. And just in our small test, we were able to put people that we hope to do it. Now, we're an essential business. You'll see a lot of utilities, telecommunication, fire trucks, other things that we have to build trucks for essential businesses. So we've stayed open and we've stayed healthy in comparison to the rest of the industry. But it's difficult. It's going to continue to be difficult to manage this. But our group is protocol over and above what we're going to see at schools or hospitals or other things. So it's going to be a challenge. By the way, my name's Scotty. Like I said, third generation. I'm the only family member that own the operations wholly. We do have a family partnership that owns the property. The property is going to be rebranded Milledgeville Commerce Center. How we came up with that, see this MCC, that's really for Marietta Country Club, but I got like 500 of these shirts. So we're going to steal their logo and everything. So I can walk down here and say, hey, Milledgeville Commerce Center. So our hope is that over the next few years, as you pull in the front here, that'll look more like an office complex. See some bankers around it, look beautiful with a bank right there and a retail center. And, we've got that almost 4 acres for sale. We've got 35 acres in the back that has rail access, and that'll be in addition to the industrial park back there. And then we've got, first thing you're gonna see is the before. We're gonna walk you through what this looked like, kinda. It's actually had a lot of demo and a lot of cleanup, and then we'll give you the after to go into our space. So we're actively giving tours. We've got a lot of people that are interested in the buildings and the property and everything, but, that's why we're glad that you're here today. We want this to be a success for everybody. If it would have been our preference, we would not have taken the risk on a real estate redevelopment project, but basically there was not a perfect building. There wasn't a unicorn for us to go buy and be able to put our business in, and you'll see kind of how challenging that business is to kind of manage. And so we felt like it was worth the risk, but we need to get people into this building. We need to sell these pieces of property. We need to develop this. And so we've got a family partnership that handles it. Well, I own it, manage it too, but there's other people, second generation, that still are invested in it. So we'll continue developing. I'd love anybody say, hey, you ever thought of this or that? We'll get the real estate guys on it and let them go to work, because I think that's what's best for Milledgeville. We're taking advantage of something that's not great for the community. Is that this is a great manufacturing town, and unfortunately, the labor pool here is excellent. I mean, excellent in any other place that we see in our industry. So it's unfortunate because you've seen Green leave and Mohawk and now Triumph is because in the aviation business is having some issues. But we're picking up a lot of those employees, which is great, and we wish that COVID wouldn't have hit if we picked up even more. But that's something that we need to make sure that everybody outside of this community understands how great the labor pool is and how for manufacturing and try to do that. So, all right, 10 minutes. That's what Aaron got me on the agenda here. So it's going to take a while as a group. We can probably get through the tour. There was just 3 or 4 of us in probably a half an hour, but we'll have people lagging around, so we'll have to kind of keep everybody moving. But any questions on any of that before we take off and start the walk?
How many employees you have right now?
Employees total is about 200 between both facilities, down from about 300 in March. So here we're probably about 150, 160. So our hope was to go right to 300, and our order entry has improved greatly. There was 8 weeks when COVID hit. I mean, we had more cancellations than we had order entry. So what do we do? But that was, we've now had about, what are we in, week 30, give or take. So we've had about 9 weeks of good, I wouldn't say great, of good order entry. So we're encouraged by that. But it's all over the place. It's not very consistent. It's not based on any one fleet. It's coming from all over. So there's no real industry that's just humming, right? I mean, and people are jumping back in and out. You'll see a lot of chassis here today. We probably have a couple hundred chassis that people have sent to us that we're going to build at some point, but they're just storing them here until they figure out what they want to do with it. Okay, so it's a weird time. You're going to go see these open rooms. Probably just 4 weeks ago, these open rooms were filled with about 500 vehicles that we had built, that our customers said, hey, can you hold on to them until we can figure out what to do with them? So they treated us really well. They went ahead and adhered to their contract, but we washed them and stocked them in this 330,000 square feet. So it's a weird time, but now clearly that's a great indication. They've taken all of those units and now those are out in the field and they're being used. But we're still, our industry is still tough time to figure out what's going to happen. Any other questions?
The majority of your customers in the southeast are y'all?
We delivered last year to 42 states. So, but yes, 80% of those would be El Paso to Wilmington South. So, but we ship product to 42 different states. So it's a pretty diverse. We're probably the most diverse product type of any truck equipment company in the country. So, this is not a typical facility. So, a truck equipment house usually starts at 15 to 20,000 square feet. You fill it up, build another one, fill it up, build another. Now you got 4 or 5 of them. Then one becomes fab, one becomes paint, one becomes upfit. there's not another truck equipment facility in the entire country where the truck comes in and it never goes back outside until it's finished. And not another one where all the parts are stored in. So as Southern Company and DICOM and, you know, all the fire chiefs and everybody come down here, I mean, we had Overhead Door here yesterday, we had AGL here yesterday, we had, all the big major fleets come in, and it's just mind-boggling. I mean, one thing's mind-boggling is just having an office like this. I mean, most of the time you're going to a shop, you know, it looks like, it's like you're going to a body shop, and it look like they got a driver's lounge, you know what I mean? So we really upped the game, and we had to do that. Okay, so we got a great reputation in the Southeast and across the country, but we've got a privately owned company, a private equity firm, and a publicly owned company that are trying to just have a national footprint. So we've already brought all three of them here and said, you're going to try to, we played offense by playing a hell of a lot, or played defense by playing a hell of a lot of offense. So we came in and said, they're our competition, and we said, if you're going to come to Atlanta, be ready. So that's, we had to do that, or we were going to just need to sell out. You know, I mean, these guys got boatloads of money. Billions. They deal in B's instead of M's. You know, so we had to do our part. All right. Well, we gotta get going, bro. We'll get through it by one. Any more? And by the way, just ask a bunch of questions while we're going quickly. Sales, accounting, engineering, scheduling, and so we've got it all siloed out. Optional to come in for office staff, and I think I told some folks earlier, human nature. You would assume that a fifth would come on Monday and a fifth on Tuesday. We ask them to come in once a week, just kind of do it. They all come in on Wednesdays. It's like, doesn't this defeat the purpose? And they're like, well, if I'm going to come in, I want to see everybody. So I don't know how we'll control COVID with that kind of human nature. But all right, we'll walk this way first.
Anybody need a golf cart? We've got one golf cart. If anybody needs rides, might be.
Yes, we will. Yep.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
I will.
Oh, no. I was like, I'm glad I was hoping that. We couldn't let that happen. You were an attractive eater. Thank you. Never did. Not being in the office every day.
Oh, yeah. Hard to keep it.
I'm not kidding.
When heavy industrial, when they were doing bringing it in, cutting most of the material, when they were doing the fabricating, and then in that 131 was when they were doing all the distribution. Okay, so this is the most difficult side of the building from an investment perspective because there's not a lot of dock room. It really has to be a manufacturing facility that needs to have for our space. So obviously, when people were coming down here and looking at it, they were thinking that was going to be the problem. We came down here and go to back room. So one, if we put it to manufacturing process, no matter what the height, weight, depth, and process, take on part. Okay? So we know that anywhere from 100 pounds, we're going to do this occupancy. So production, go over and pick the soil. That was when we had we have 4 people from India that were involved with this for helping. I went well for a while from the whole plan and then said, hey, this is what we're doing. Help us set a place upon our building. So sometimes it takes doing this kind of what office. We're in with the building. That's where all the trucks enter the building. They all get washed. Wash everything. Then parts and vehicles. When it leaves, it's ready to go. Again, our example of a traditional trucking shop, driving in the foot process, back outside new bed. So when you look at our van body social circle, we had a 10-day process. Touchable to the team when that truck leaves. Now it's about 3 to truck here about 6 days. Not quite that easy.
Yeah, yeah.
It really is, but
Right.
That's a real ceiling fan.
last stage of the
They call them big ass fans.
in the room, 1 year on the right now, we're only running one line, one shift. They're designed to be 2 lines, 2 shifts. So we're really at about 25% capacity in how this thing was done. So they're currently pulling these out. They'll pull the chassis in a minute, body up, finish it, and then it goes back to where you get the F from. And then it's electrical, lift gate, paint, decal, and QC. The whole side of that building. So these guys are about to bring a couple of them down. Over here to the right, there'll be other future businesses here. Right now, this is 50 years of crap that came out of our furnace place that I'm not willing to throw away quite yet. So, none of it's worth anything, and I'm willing to throw it away, but I'm not there yet. So I'm still working. So we have welding positions is probably the biggest need, and then general assembly technicians, so people that can use normal air tools and can learn those types of processes.
What kind of training do you need as a prerequisite, or do you train on the job?
We train on the job. If they can pass the drug test and show up on time, they got work in. All right, here I go.
Peter, I was just talking to Aaron about
Alright, so even though we're under one roof, we do separate the businesses. So over here to the right, that's all of our van exterior class 1 through 3 pickup. Okay, so again, the technician can pick all of his parts off of this shelving and do all of the van interior upfits. We are a Ford and soon to be a Ram velvet pool. So we order chassis as we're a dealer, and then we resell those to other dealers. So we can't sell them to end users, but we sell them to other dealers. So we're kind of a distribution arm for Ford Motor Company. Okay, so we'll bring in a lot of transit vans. We're currently out. So we sold, so everything you see here today, when we get to the back parking lot, those are not chassis that we brought in from a velvet pool perspective. Those are end users that have sent us chassis. We do not have any chassis in the pool. We've got hundreds on order, but right now they're fulfilling end user orders and not kind of velvet pool. So
Here, I don't see fake phone thing.
So we built the Hero trucks last year, I think, in 2018. So that's been a contract for us. We got a little sideways with DOT about 10 years ago and didn't do it for a few years, but they're back and they did a tour here a couple of weeks ago. The 220-ton cranes are the only thing that he didn't sell. All the other equipment was gone, and that's the other end of the building where the train used to come in. So we consider it to be a zero touch. If our material handlers can pick up a unit, put it in a spot, and now the technician can actually pick it. So you're looking at 21.5-foot carriers, car carriers. That's what somebody would come and tow your truck, car or truck with. And then you've got 14-foot dump trucks. Those are being tossed like pencils by that 20-ton crane. And then they're backing these trucks in here, and this is our hydraulic area. We shave 3 to 3.5 hours of material handling off each one of those jobs because those are typically, in our competition, be stored outside and then have to be moved inside. So it's a 20-ton crane is a huge thing.
Hey, let's do that. What do they call it? 30 miles, no.
Milledgeville about 12,000.
Think about
Alright, so this is the beginning of the man body process. So, Dallas works on a piece rate. She's a welder. This is her station. If she's finished, she can go home, right? So she's caught up to this point and not in her station. But a couple of things we want you to notice here is that none of the material has to continue to work all day with the material being loaded from the other side. The sign is that the material handling never gets. We've actually not allow any of our material handling to use radios. Radios are huge ones, sound like a 911 call center back in the day. But she's a very simple Kanban system. And she gets issued 4, 5, 6 jobs a day. When she hits her horn, she's starting this Kanban card to get distributed to front walls, side walls, and subframes. And so she's the start of the process. And we'll keep just about 20 feet up here, and I'll show you the next. Two walls in the rear frame, and they will we'll be loading this here, so we won't have a so we feel like this is the safest, the most efficient way to do this. Nobody else in the industry is doing it this way. Very proud of the design. This is the simple assembly area. So this is the start of the production line. Do boxing, electrical, roofing, then they'll do mounting where we call that sidewalls, rear frames, front walls, and flooring are all coming in. Boxing. Underneath this 20 screen, where you make sure we can handle some of the larger 26-foot sidewall spots to the material handling piece to bring it inside, we're being able to grab it about 6 or 7. Huge advantage for us. And then obviously being able to stock all of our service bodies, all of our dump bodies, all of the stuff that are customer vehicles, nobody else can do that. We can do it all outside. And the weather, so it's a great advantage for us.
John Sound. What kind of salaries they pay? These are not skilled jobs.
If it's a welder, they're paying good because they're hard to get.
Well, I mean, just completely different than anything else in Milledgeville.
Yeah.
For me, I never thought about it.
All of this gets serviced just like you went in to get an oil change. You show up at your 13th in line, this is what happens. On the other side of the plant, we have our fleet department. And our fleet department has to run much differently because it's full project management. You know, it's deadline oriented, a lot of reporting, a lot of quality control, and other things happen. These guys are doing more simple and straightforward stuff. Behind us is our fabrication area. So this is a new 30-foot HC class pump that breaks here. We're bending and cutting most of our inbox materials and flatbed ourselves. Here in Heath, how long for the install? How long for the install? 6 weeks. 6 weeks. 6 weeks forever. So we've got a huge install coming here. We're going to start buying all of our steel, long steels across over by the pound, by the piece. Bring them in a 52-foot stick and actually cutting that. So you can see how all these pieces are cut. We're buying them like that now. And it's all put them back over the winter. Next time you're here, you'll see a whole other fabrication set up, set all that. By the time we got to the end, we powder-coated plastic. So we'll see about an $800,000 investment. And right now, the order is pre-COVID, we had more than enough for one shift. And we built it with two-shift plan. Right now, the only thing that we need is to put them on 2 weeks for locked and loaded. We're still going to find that 16 weeks later, we've got a powder coat. Mine's already been done. We we live in a new normal, right?
Thank you.
To develop or to sell that property. So that's what we're doing. So we find a partner, they need us to build it, and back to that. If they'd like to buy that land and do something good for the community, we're all here for that too. So it's a great piece of property, very flat. And again, one of the best, I don't know, but if we're looking for 10 years, I don't know another piece of property that works so well for rail. So if you find a friend or a colleague that's looking for rail, it's in great shape. It's dormant, but that also helps you because then when you turn it back on, you can kind of shape it how you. All right. So let's start.
He saved our meal. Saved our meal. Watch out. Laura just about.
Thank you.
the separation of what we are, make sure we got that capital. So the plant was designed for 4 lines. We've got 2 lines in Texas, 4 lines. One crane down into the building. We only have 2 of them activated now. We're allowing our customers to use those cranes. The long term, customers will secure about 40 different items. So when you saw the service department, we're going to charge you, boom, boom, and get out. You want us to see the truck here for a year, and you want to pay us, we'll let you sit here. That's kind of, what do you really want? What do you need? So we're almost selling labor here versus selling the product. So we'll say it's 10 hours. We'll put this body assessment on it. Over here, you may see something like a real truck, fiber optic industry, crew trucks with natural gas, just all kinds of custom stuff. Right now, just getting into what we call custom season. Usually, they're kind of here in try to get all this stuff on. You're about to see a ton of Southern Company trucks. The Southern Company's here every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, 50 times a year, Southern Company's here doing it. So we have a 4-year contract currently in place with these guys, and we'll build trucks every single year. We have other customers that do that as well, but they're the most consistent. They have in the area. So the last section here is what we call our custom area. Again, these guys kind of fall in love with this crane. These got another crane coming for them. They should be lined up against this wall. This should be 2 more fire trucks. Okay? So this is probably the area that's most fun on a daily basis to get involved in. So like this guy here behind you, that's what the filming is.
They're selling ass now on the trucks.
We're doing over Q&A air conditioning. Okay, everybody doing Yep.
It'd be a roll 16 flat tails down the outer foot line.
Well, those definitely. Yes, the thing that we get questions is whether you need to take a 600,000 truck to an auto accident, you need to take it to a heart attack, you need to, sure as hell don't need to put it in an auto accident where you're covering, blocking traffic and then it gets hit. So we have a lot of alternative options that, well, one of the most difficult part is that one is budgetary. I mean, you hear it all the time. It's like, well, if I tell them I need something less expensive, then they just cut my budget. Right? And then the other is operating. We've operated this way for forever, and now if we add another, but we feel like we've got something that we call the Falcon 4, the first out utility rescues on an F-550. We think every fire station, not fire department, every fire station, it should be totally incremental. Yeah. And it should be when they get a 911 call. It should be like it's like the ambulance. It goes out. And with cheap truck, 225,000, still has a pump. So you got a huge pump on it. You still need 1,250 gallons per minute. So you get to a fire, you have a couple hundred feet of hose, you can tap it. We think that's segment. Yeah, absolutely.
What we used to run up against with problems in the smaller areas, just sound like Milledgeville. You got the pumper, the big rig pumper, but you get out there and you get another call. Well, you've only got one shift. That's right. You got nobody to take the other trucks out, and that was what sometimes you ran into. Is you can get out there and then the worst is going to happen. You got your firefighters tied up, and nobody brings. So they need the truck. So that's why they run them on all these calls. I mean, unfortunately, that's what it was.
Government employees struggle to fleet management because it's not P&L.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And so when you see how, I mean, most of our fleets have gone to about 100,000, 4-year, 100,000 miles. It's kind of the sweet spot. And then they rotate them, and you got to deliver on time. They're trying to get that rotation. And government fleets don't. No.
You see the difference between commercial operators and government operators. They spend more money. All right.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Here, I saw the food going over there. That room right there.
Let's see. Hearing the food in there, but I didn't separate it out. I don't check out and see what. All right, they're going to get the food out. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
We have a welding program. I'm the race price superintendent of Baldwin County School District.
Okay, great.
We have a welding program at the high school.
Wonderful.
I want to know, how do I get my kids to be first in line for the Johnson?
Kim Luthman, right
Okay.
there in that door. She would love to meet you and,
Okay.
and bring you in. And she is still interviewing, and we're onboarding still 4 or 5 people a week.
Okay.
So even though we've had a pretty major pullback, she's still bringing in 4 or 5 people. So we love to have that connection and bring them in and have them do an interview. We're also working with college on some things. Aaron has been great on
hooking us up with some folks in the marketing and other departments. Other questions?
No, I think the starting wage, what's the starting hourly wage?
I don't think that we have anybody in the entire building making less than 14. Okay, so I think that's our bottom number. But we also have piece rate opportunities long term. So even though an employee may have a 20-hour rate, getting paid on piece rate, so they may be able to have an 8-hour job and perfectly trained, and they can do that job in 6.5 or 7 hours. Then they can have an understudy that's making $15 an hour, so they're capturing that other $5 an hour too. So we have technicians out there. They're well trained, got a motor, they show up on time, they work hours, but there's nothing for them to make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 trade. So that's kind of where we try to get that out there. We do not have a diesel, so I don't want to run people off, right? But if I was trying to train people that do not want to take the next level in college, right? I would be, if you're willing to live, go through the diesel mechanic training piece. I mean, all of our partners in the trucking business cannot find diesel mechanics, and they are making a lot of money. Trained diesel mechanic right now is getting traded at about 40. Okay, so there's so we can't compete with that where we were right next door to a diesel mechanic shop, in Smyrna. So it's like, well, they make all this, well, that's not our industry. We can't charge our customer for diesel mechanic work, so we can't pay diesel mechanic fees. But I don't think anybody in the place is brand new, never worked in a day in their life is $14.
Set up and maybe how do we try to specialize?
No, absolutely. And we haven't had many of those, by the way. I mean, we either brought people with us or there were people coming from Mohawk or somewhere else, and they were coming in with experience and a pay rate and some of those other things. And frankly, we're still building, kind of rebuilding our org structure pay rate on what this should be done. I mean, this, the community here, it's a lower cost of living than it was in Smyrna, and so we compete with other companies in Morganton, PA, and Griffin, Georgia, middle of nowhere, Troy, Alabama. So they're working in those kind of lower wage areas instead of in the metropolitan area. So we don't really have a great balance on what a welder should make here versus what they make. So we're still working on that. But if they come in and they've got great references, we're trying to come up where they stop. I mean, so if they were at Mohawk and they came on board, I think they were paying their lead mechanics $20 an hour, and we brought them in at like $19.25 or something. And we brought 8 of them over when they got laid off. So, good. Any other questions? And obviously, we've got management positions, sales positions, all that stuff. So I mean, people,
I'm going to create your future workforce.
Yeah, and by the way, we've got. I mean, our we're trained here, so I mean, not everybody in these offices has a college. It's not a mandatory thing. You're going to come and get in our business and work hard for 20 years. You can have my job. All right. Any other questions? All right. Restrooms again are in that common hall. Okay. One other place we did see, when you walk back out this door, across the hallway, you'll see about 3,000 square feet. We left that purposely open to be able to redevelop that into an office like that. So that can be a corporate office spot for one of the tenants. So we didn't leave, so we wouldn't have to redevelop that. But tenants don't want that, then we'll take it over at some point. But we did leave that open, and that's why some of the signage is not up. Okay, we have a beautiful sign design that's 30, 40, 50 grand or something, and we're going to go put it up. We're like, all right, we're going to put it up, and then somebody's going to want to buy that lot, and then they're going to, first thing they're going to do is take that down. So it's a little on purpose that we don't have the signage, but there will be a Smyrna Truck House Brothers sign on this building later this month. But we do already have a Milledgeville Commerce Center sign in Woodbury designed for the front of the place, but we didn't want to put it up and have a tenant buy a lot and say take it down. So another fast food restaurant out here, and then the Milledgeville Commerce Center. So that was I think we pulled back on that.
Okay, so lunch is ready. It's provided by Bojangles today. You've got a choice of either a Cajun chicken sandwich or a chicken tender box. So choose one or the other, and then there's 3 different sides, choose one side, and then there's water and sauces. If you don't mind, when you get to the sides, the one with the green writing, leave it for last. Let that be the last one you pick up so you'll know if it's green beans, mac and cheese. I think the other one may be dirty rice or something. Help yourself.
Thanks for coming out for the tour, guys. Really appreciate it.